Hey everyone, Kevin from Citizen Wallet here. Um, so you have a community token and you're asking yourself, how can I send some to my community members, or how do I deal with transaction fees? What app should I use? Where should I start? Well, if you're asking yourself some of these questions or any other questions related to community tokens, you've come to the right place. So what I'm going to show you here is how to publish your own community server. Why do I suddenly talk about a community server? There are a few things that people expect when they're dealing with tokens, and especially sending and receiving tokens to and from each other. One of those things is transaction history. It might seem like it should be there, it should always be there, but these type of things need to come from somewhere, and the community server will take care of that. So transaction history, we need to index what's happening. People expect when they receive a token to be able to just send it again to someone else without having to wonder or worry about transaction fees. So the server will take care of the transaction fees. Also, nice thing to have is when you receive a token and your phone isn't open, you receive a push notification. So push notifications. And finally, one of the other things that's kind of nice but needed is people also expect to be able to send to a username. So at something something something, or at bank, at bar, at pizza, I don't know, any username. You should be able to send tokens to those usernames. So another one of the things that the community server will be used for. All right, so you need a community server. Where should you start? There's two steps to this. So one of them, the first step I'm going to show you, is normally something that we do and we take care of for you. However, if you really would like to also really set up a server yourself, I'm going to show that as well. So, I mean, don't worry if this is too technical. We take care of this step, but if you still want to do it, you can. And I will proceed to show you how to set up a server. So I'm using Amazon Web Services, but you can use any other provider you want. And what you're going to need is a very simple server. So I will just make one called Cello Community. I tend to pick Ubuntu and ARM, but you really shouldn't have to worry too much. It's just my basic setup. And then I pick at least, this is written down in our documentation, at least a small server which has 2 cores and 2 gigabytes of memory, just so that we can spin up all of the things that are needed. And finally, I'll give myself access to this community server by selecting my key. And then, yes, how much storage should you have on the server? There's no right answer, except that there is a minimum requirement of 4. So 4 gigabytes is the bare bones. Like, you install all the software, you set up the server, and that's what it consumes. So I would not recommend setting it to 4, because you wouldn't be able to store anything else after. The default here ends up being 8. You can start with that. You can also put 10 or 20. It shouldn't make too much of a difference. Start at 8 or increase to more. Storage is essentially the transaction history and push notification tokens and things like that. You can change this value later on most providers. So let me go ahead and launch my server. There we go. The launch was successful. Okay, pending. Thinking. The next thing you want to do is log into your server. So you go and you find the address of your server, and then you give yourself access. So here I'm going to give myself SSH access. All right, and one additional detail worth mentioning with your server setup is just to give it access to the internet. So it should be allowed to have full access outbound, and inbound we should have access from the internet. So inbound, you should have access to port 443. Well, port 443 should be open. Port 80 should be open. 443 is HTTPS. Port 80 is just the internet, unsecure internet. And then port 22 is my terminal's access. So it's important that inbound, 80, 22, 443 are allowed, and that outbound, anything is allowed. So my server can contact the internet as it wishes. And now let me show you what it looks like as the next step. So I have a server, it is running, and I have configured to give myself access to it. The way I do it is I give a name on my local machine pointing to that server. So this is why you see community demo. All right, so let me just log in, accept, and there we go, I'm in. I'm connected to that server. So up till here, pretty standard, pretty simple. Now what do I need on my server is I need to install the Citizen Wallet community server. So here we are installing the Citizen Wallet community server. Nothing else is set up. So if you have another provider, another server provider, you can also do it. You don't have to use Amazon. All right, so there's a command to download a script from Citizen Wallet. You can go ahead and look at it. You can inspect the script if you want. It's just going to prepare the server. So let me run it while I explain. What it does is it installs all the software that's needed for the server to run. This can take a few minutes to a few seconds. It depends how powerful the machine you've rented. And then once it's done, it'll spin up a web interface. And this is the part where normally we give you a ready-made server with this already set up, so you only have to do the web configuration part. But I guess now you get to see how the cookies are made. All right, so it's installing a few pieces of software. There's one step where it installs Docker. This might take a few seconds, and it might ask us to log out and log in again. This is just due to how users and permissions work on Linux. Nothing too fancy there. So let me speed that up. Oh, all right, didn't even need to do that. So the script has stopped and is telling me to just exit and come back. So I will do that. There we go. I logged in and I logged out again, that's all. And then I run the script again. Okay. So now what it's doing is it's downloading the web dashboard and installing it. And then it'll ask me a few questions. So as you saw, the server has an IP address, but you don't want your users to type in an IP address when they have to find the wallet or when they have to connect to things. People are used to going to google.com or mywallet.com. So this will come in the next step. We will define our domain name and attach it to our server. All right. So again, this step can also take a few seconds, and I'll speed this up. All right, so we're at a step now where the server is set up and we're ready to go into the next step. So what we're being asked here is, hey, can you enter the host name or the domain name for your community server? So this is the more user-friendly URL that people will type in, like mywallet.com or wallet.myorganization.org. And in this case, we're just going to use celoc.citizenwallet.xyz. So this should be something that you control, that you have access to the DNS that you can go and put an entry into, all right? You can't just put someone else's domain. All right, so next step is, in order to perform certain actions on the server, it needs to be able to publish things to IPFS. So we use Pinata. You should just make an account with Pinata and download your keys and put them here. So I'm not going to show my keys, obviously, but you can just put your own. There we go. We press enter, and now we're on to the final step in this, where it's telling me, hey, your server looks like it's at this IP address, and you want to you want to point to this domain, can you please put this entry into your DNS? So a record, this IP address for this domain. So I'm just going to do that. We use Versal, so let me just go in there and add as a value the IP address, type A, and then the subdomain would be cello-c. And there we go. Let me do that really quickly, and voila, it's added. And now that it's ready, now that you've done that step, you can just press Y. The next question, you can just leave the default value. This is to set a notification when your certificate expires. So you can just leave the default, it's okay. Press enter, and now the server is in the process of generating a certificate for you for your domain, for this server. This is very important because you want communication between the wallet or the user and the server. And there we go. Now it's verifying that you have control over the domain. It's verifying on the domain that there's an entry pointing to this server, and it's generating a certificate, an SSL certificate. This is really important because it ensures that communication between your users and your server is secure and no one is listening in the middle. At the next step, it's asking you for a Firebase service account. So what is this for? It's for push notifications. Right now, we don't support allowing push notifications if you self-host, so if you set this up yourself. But in the case that you go through us to make, to set up your community server, we can enable this for you. It's simply a reason that we don't have the feature right now, not that we don't want to allow you to have push notifications. So I will just press enter and ignore, and there we go. Everything is ready for you to now go on the web and launch the dashboard. So there you have it. The server is officially in a state where it's ready for you to go and set it up. So this is normally the step at which you will be when we set it up for you. So we can go now to cello.c.citizenwallet.xyz, and we will be greeted with the configuration page for your community. So you can see that your community dashboard is running on the domain that you provided, and it's ready to be set up. So let's do it. Let's go through it. What are we doing here? We're selecting the chain. In our case, we're going to go for Cello. And next step is giving your community a name, giving a description, selecting a color, a logo. And as you do this, you will see an example up top of what this will look like. So in our case, we're going to use Cello community point. This is a community for the Cello point. Here we go. URL, what do we mean by this? When people can click on the token in the app to see more information, they will go to this page. So I'm going to put citizenwallet.xyz, but you should put a page which explains, gives a bit more information about your token. Where can you redeem it? What is it for? Why does it exist? I mean, it's up to you, but this is where your chance to give a little introduction to your token. All right, what color? Green, obviously. Maybe a slightly darker green. There we go. Yeah. All right. Now, assuming you have your token, you will need your address here. There we go. See, it fetched your token from the address, the symbol, the name. And now we pick our beautiful logo. And voila, it looks like this, has this name, has this color. All right. The configuration is done. So we continue to the final step where we need to actually publish a contract on chain. So this is simply going to enable us to publish a contract. So what's happening here is the page itself will publish a contract for you. And in order to do that, it needs some cello. So I'm just sending it some cello. There we go. It has received some cello. You can scan that code with any wallet application that you have. And then you just click on configure. And now it will go through publishing your community on chain. So this can take a few seconds. It has to publish a few contracts in order for things to work. So one of them is your main community contract, which ensures that your transactions are sponsored. One of them is a contract which holds all of your community members, their profiles, when they decide to put a username. And another one is the contract that allows users to have accounts. So there you go. In the meantime that I was saying that, the server managed to publish all the contracts, and so you're ready to go, almost. We talked about transaction fees earlier, so the server is the sponsor, and this is the server's address. So the server itself is going to sponsor transactions, but in order to do that, it needs to have some cello. So let's just click here to go and inspect that, and let me just copy its address and send it some cello so it can get started. There we go. Let me just paste that really quickly. Voila, and I will send it 1. It's a good place to start. Obviously, it's going to depend on which chain you select. On Cello, the fees are relatively low, so you can start by sending it this much. On some other chains, it might be a different amount because there's different fees. So there we go. Let's refresh the page to double check. All right, it now has 1 Cello. That's great. Let me just check here as well. Oh, yeah. All right, so now that we've topped up our sponsor, it's time to create a wallet. All right, so 2 ways to create your web wallet, either by scanning this QR code or hitting this button, which will open it up on the current page. So what I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to create it right here in this window. And all you have to do is just put the link, launch the page, and a wallet will be created for you, which will then also create an account for you. Right, and now that I have this account and this wallet, I kind of need tokens to start. So let's do that. Let's get myself some tokens. The way to do this is by minting, since I don't have tokens yet. In this ecosystem, I've just started, brand new, or maybe you already do, then you just transfer into this wallet. So either way, the account here that I have on this page has an address. So if you already have tokens, great, send them to this address. They will appear here. In my case, I don't have any yet. So let me just go ahead and mint some to this. Whoop. Here we go. Let me go ahead to so this is my tokens explorer page. And let's go over here to the mint function, which says, hey, we need an address. So let's take my account's address, paste that here. And now let's say I want to give myself 10. I'll give myself 10. Just remember that your token probably has decimals, and in my case it has 6 decimals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can check this on the Token Explorers page, right? So let me just connect, because the minter will need to we'll need to trigger the mint function. So let me just do that. All right, let's authorize the transaction. Voila, I'm hitting the button and it's happening here. That was super fast. Now this account has 10 CELO-C. And from here, I would like to send it to someone. So let's do that. All right, I hit the send button. I can either scan, but no one is in my community yet. I have nothing to scan. So let me just say that I want to send one. And I don't have anyone to send it to, but that's okay. I can just hit this button to create a voucher. Oh, there we go. A voucher of 1 CeloC. And this is the QR code of the voucher. All right, so let me just scan that on my phone. So I have a phone here on the other side. And there we go. Scan that. And it automatically opens up your community server and displays the voucher. So it opens up your community server, creates an account on the page, and then opens up the voucher to redeem. So now on this device, over here on the right, there was no account, no wallet before. And the user now has an account. So let me hit the redeem button. All right, this will redeem that voucher into this account. And there you go. I have an account, I have 1 CeloC, easy peasy. So now, what can this new user do? This user would probably like to send this token somewhere, right? Let's do that. Here I can display my receive code and scan from over here, allow QR, there we go. You see? 1, yeah, let's send 1. Makes sense. And why don't we write a little message? Hello. And we send. There you go. The feedback is instant while it's sending and as it's sent. And there you go with a little message. Hello. There we go. No transaction fees at all. I was able to give a token to someone who had no account before and they sent it back on a completely different device.